I can't believe it's you. Sarah's voice trembled. Standing before her, in the doorway of her small, weathered wooden house with its cracked walls, was the man she had sworn never to see again. David, 15 years later. He wore a suit that cost more than everything she owned. His shoes gleamed under the afternoon sun. She wore a blouse mended 3 times and sandals with worn-out soles. Between them, a silence, a decade and a half long. David tried to speak, but the words caught in his throat as he saw inside the house. A wobbly table, 3 barefoot children staring at him with huge eyes, bare walls, the smell of dampness and poverty. He had traveled 5 hours in his luxury car to reach this forgotten town. He had rehearsed 1,000 times what to say, but nothing prepared him for this. "What are you doing here?" she asked. Her voice was hard, but her eyes told another story. There was pain, so much pain. "I need to talk to you." David took a step forward. "It's important." "Important?" Sarah let out a bitter laugh. "After 15 years? After you left without explanation? After leaving me alone when I needed you most?" The children hid behind their mother. The youngest, barely 5, hugged her leg. "It's not what you think," he said. "Then tell me." She crossed her arms. "Tell me, what's so important that it brings you here after so long? Tell me, why do you show up now when I've already learned to live without you? When I no longer need your empty promises?" David took a deep breath, reached into his jacket pocket, and pulled out an envelope. An envelope that would change everything. "I came to give you this," he said, "and to tell you the truth. The truth." That word floated between them like a ghost, because the truth had the power to destroy the little that remained, or to rebuild everything from the ashes. Sarah looked at the envelope without touching it. Her heart pounded so hard it hurt. What she didn't know was that this envelope contained something she never imagined, and the conversation that was about to begin would reveal secrets that had been buried for 15 long years. If this story touches your heart, don't forget to subscribe. Stories like this need to be told. Sarah didn't take the envelope. She simply stepped aside and motioned inside the house with a dry gesture. "Come in, but take off those shoes. I don't want you to track dirt on the floor." David obeyed, took off his Italian leather shoes, and left them at the entrance. The concrete floor was cold under his feet. Clean, he noted. Despite everything, it was impeccably clean. The 3 children were still watching him. The eldest, a girl of about 12 with messy braids, looked at him with distrust. The middle child, an 8-year-old boy in a t-shirt 2 sizes too big, hid behind his sister. The youngest, clinging to his mother's legs, sucked his thumb. "Emily, take your brothers outside," Sarah ordered softly. "But Mom." "Now, honey," the girl nodded, took her brother's hands, and went out the back door. Before leaving, she shot David one last look. A look that said, "If you hurt her, you'll have me to deal with." David felt something tighten in his chest. That girl had the same fire in her eyes as Sarah, the same spirit he had fallen in love with so many years ago. "Sit down." Sarah pointed to a wobbly chair next to the rickety table. "Though I don't know if your designer suit will survive." He sat without responding to the provocation. The table was set for 4. Mismatched plates, 4 biscuits on a plate, a pot of stew. That was dinner. "Are they yours?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "The children." Sarah sat across from him, keeping her distance. "No. I found them on the street and decided to collect them." "Sarah, what did you expect, David? That I'd freeze in time waiting for you?" Life went on. I went on. "Who's their father?" The question came out harsher than he intended. Sarah looked at him with something that was half pain, half fury. "That's not your problem. Not anymore. There was a time when there were no secrets between them. When they were young. When David was still an architecture student with more dreams than money. When Sarah worked at her uncle's dinner and saved him the day-old bread. They had married in a simple ceremony. 20 guests. A borrowed dress. But they were happy. Or so David thought. Until the offer came. The opportunity of his life. An investor partner who wanted to finance his first big project, but there was a condition. He had to leave, move to the city, work day and night for years. "I'll be back in 2 years," he had promised. 3 at most. "I'm going to build our future." She had cried, begged him not to go, but he was blind with ambition, young and foolish. "I'll come back for you," he had said. "I swear." He never did. "I know I have no right to be here," David said now, his voice softer. "I know I failed you, that I broke all my promises, all of them." Sarah let out a humorless laugh. "No, David, you didn't just break your promises. You shattered me. You left me alone." When she stopped, swallowed. Her eyes gleamed, but she wasn't going to cry. Not in front of him. When? What? Nothing. Forget it. "Sarah, please, please." She stood up abruptly. The chair scraped the floor. "You come after 15 years with an envelope and a please? Do you think that's enough?" David also stood, placing the envelope on the table. "I didn't come to ask for forgiveness. I came to give you what always belonged to you." She looked at the envelope as if it were a snake. "I don't want your money. It's not charity. It's yours by right. I don't need anything from you. Sarah, open it." "No." Her shout echoed through the bare walls. Outside, they heard the children fall silent. Sarah suddenly took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. "Look at you," David said softly. "Look at this house, the barefoot children, the food that barely stretches, but it's mine. All of this is mine. I built it with my hands, with my dignity intact. And there was the reason he had fallen in love with her. That fierce dignity, that pride that wouldn't break even when everything else crumbled. I know," he said, "and I admire you for that. I always have." Admiration. Sarah laughed, but there were tears now running down her cheeks. "I don't want your admiration. I wanted you to be here. When I lost." She covered her mouth. She had said too much. David took a step closer, then another. "What did you lose?" She shook her head. "Sarah, please, tell me. Our child." The words came out as a broken whisper. "I lost our child 2 months after you left." David's world stopped. All sound disappeared. Only that blow remained, that truth that had just broken something inside him that could never be repaired. "You were pregnant?" 3 months. "I was going to tell you the day before you left, but you were so excited about your opportunity. I didn't want to ruin your moment." David sank into the chair. His hands trembled. I didn't know." "Of course, you didn't know. Because you never called, never wrote, you disappeared as if we had never existed." The envelope remained on the table between them. A white rectangle containing secrets. Secrets that could change everything, or destroy the little that remained. "Open it," David said, his voice broken. "Please. After that, if you want me to leave, I'll go, and you'll never see me again." Sarah looked at the envelope. Her hands trembled as she reached for it. What she was about to discover would change everything she thought she knew about these 15 years of abandonment. Sarah opened the envelope with trembling hands. Inside were documents, many documents. She spread them out on the wobbly table, one by one. Her face changed as she read. First confusion, then disbelief. Finally, something akin to shock. "What is this?" "Bank certificates," David replied. "In your name. This says," Sarah read again as if the words might change. "This says $20 million. Yes." "You're crazy." She threw the papers on the table. "Do you think you can buy me? That you can come here with money and erase everything? It's not that. Then what is it?" David stood and walked to the window. Outside, the 3 children played in the dirt yard. Emily pushed her brothers on a swing made from an old tire and rope. "When I left," he began, "we signed papers, remember? We signed many things. The marriage license, the mortgage on the house you never finished paying off. No, other papers. My partner, the investor, insisted. He said it was protection, that if something happened to me, you would be covered." Sarah frowned, trying to remember. "I was so excited for you to pursue your dream that I signed without reading. I trusted you. That document stipulated that 50% of everything I earned would automatically be yours, regardless of whether we were together or not." Silence. A silence so deep you could hear the wind rustling the dry leaves in the yard. "You're saying that every building I built, every project I completed, every dollar I earned in these 15 years, half was always legally yours? By contract?" Sarah slumped into the chair. Her legs wouldn't hold her. "Then why do I live like this?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "Why do my children go barefoot? Why do we eat stew every day? Because you never claimed what was yours, and I." David closed his eyes. "I was a coward. Explain yourself." "After the first year, when the business exploded, when the money started coming in, I knew I should go back, fulfill my promise, but each month that passed made it harder. I had so much work, so much pressure. I kept telling myself, 1 more month, just 1 more month, and I'll have everything ready to come back for her." And 1 month turned into 6. 6 into a year. Before I knew it, 3 years had passed. I tried to call, but your number no longer existed. I came looking for you, but your great aunt told me you had moved, that you wanted nothing to do with me. Sarah stiffened. My great-aunt died 10 years ago. I know, I found out later, but by then, 5 years had passed, and I assumed you had rebuilt your life, that you had. The $20 million accumulating in your account was my way of compensating. Compensating? Sarah's voice rose. Do you think money compensates for you leaving when I needed you most? For me losing our baby alone? For me having to scramble for work? For my children growing up thinking their mother is worthless? David turned. Tears were in his eyes. No, none of that compensates for anything. That's why I came. Not to give you the money, but to tell you the truth. To ask you not for forgiveness. I don't deserve forgiveness, but for the opportunity to get to know those children. To help. To be here. The children! Sarah jumped to her feet. You want to get to know my children? After losing ours? The back door opened. Emily came in, her eyes wide and scared. Mom, are you okay? We heard you screaming. Sarah took a deep breath. She wiped her tears with the back of her hand. I'm fine, honey. Go back outside. But Emily didn't move. She looked at David with that protective distrust children have who grew up too fast. He's bothering you. David felt something break in his chest. This girl, barely 12, was ready to defend her mother from a man 3 times her size. No, Emily, Sarah said in a softer voice. We're just talking. Go with your brothers. Are you sure? Sure. The girl left, but left the door ajar, just in case. Sarah slumped back into the chair. She looked exhausted, as if she had run a marathon. Who's their father? David asked again, more softly. This time, Sarah looked at him for a long moment. There was something in her eyes, something David couldn't decipher. Mark, she finally said. His name was Mark. He worked construction. He was good, kind. He wasn't you, but he was good. He died 4 years ago. An accident at the construction site. The children didn't even receive compensation because the company went bankrupt. David felt a pang of something that might be jealousy, but it was too late for that. Too absurd. I'm sorry. I don't want your pity. It's not pity, it's empathy. I know what it's like to lose. Sarah let out a bitter laugh. You, the successful millionaire. What did you lose? David looked her directly in the eyes. I lost you, the only woman I ever loved. I lost a child I never knew. I lost 15 years. I'll never get back. Those were your decisions. I know. That's why I'm here. Sarah looked at the documents on the table again. $20 million. A fortune. Enough to change everything. To give her children an education. Shoes. A future. But at what price? If I accept this, she said slowly, what do you want in return? Nothing. Everyone wants something. Just let me be in their lives, in yours, not as a husband. I'm not crazy enough to think that's possible, but I don't know, as a friend, as someone who can help. For how long? Until you get bored again? Until another project calls you away? It was a fair question, and David didn't have an answer that sounded convincing. I don't know, he admitted. I just know that these 15 years without you were empty. I built 30 buildings. I earned more money than I can spend. But every night in my empty penthouse, I looked at our wedding photo and asked myself, was it worth it? And was it worth it? David shook his head. No, none of it was worth losing you. Outside, the sun was beginning to set. The children ran in with red cheeks and disheveled hair. They stopped when they saw David still there. Mom, we're hungry, said the middle boy. Sarah looked at the pot of stew, looked at her 3 children, looked at the documents on the table, and finally looked at David. What she decided at this moment would change everything for her children, for the man she once loved and who was now a millionaire stranger in her humble home. But there was something David still hadn't told her, something that was about to be revealed and would make everything he had just confessed seem insignificant. Sit down to eat, Sarah said to her children. Her voice was firm, but David noticed the tremble in her hands as she served the stew. The 3 children settled at the table. Emily helped the youngest onto his chair. David remained standing, feeling like an intruder in this family intimacy. You too, Sarah said without looking at him. If you're going to be here, you eat with us. It was more of an order than an invitation. David sat down. Dinner was silent. The children ate quickly, clearly hungry. Emily broke her biscuit in half and gave a piece to her younger brother. A gesture so natural, it was obvious she did it every day. David could barely swallow. Every bite tasted of guilt. When they finished, Emily began clearing the plates. Let me help you, David offered. No need, the girl replied coldly. Emily, don't be rude. Sarah gently reprimanded her. But Mom, we don't know him. I know, honey, but he's an old friend. Emily looked at him with skepticism. At 12, she had already learned to distrust old friends who appeared out of nowhere. After washing the dishes in a tub of cold water, Sarah took the children to their room. David heard their soft voices, the usual ritual, a story, prayers, goodnight kisses. When she returned, the moon had already risen. The house was lit only by a kerosene lamp. The electricity had been cut again. You fall asleep fast when you're tired, Sarah said, sitting across from him. When you've worked from sunrise until sunset, Emily works too. She helps at the town's general store 3 days a week after school. She earns enough for her notebooks. David felt something break in his chest. She was 12 and stronger than many adults. There was a silence. David watched the lamp's flame dance. You said you came looking for me, Sarah began. That my great-aunt told you I'd moved? Yes. 3 years after I left. Your great-aunt Evelyn. Yes. Sarah leaned forward, her eyes gleaming in the lamplight. David, my great-aunt Evelyn died 2 years before you left. The world stopped. David looked at her, confused. What? Evelyn, my mother's sister, died of cancer when I was 20, 2 years before we got married. But I talked to her. I went to her house. A woman with gray hair, pulled back in a bun, lived in the blue house at the end of Main Street. Sarah turned pale. That wasn't my great-aunt Evelyn. Then who? Magdalena. The name came out as a whisper. Mark's great-aunt, his deceased father's mother. David understood none of this. It made sense. Why would Mark's great-aunt be in that house? Why would she lie to me? Sarah stood up and walked to an old box in the corner. She rummaged inside and pulled out a yellowed photograph. She handed it to David. In the photo, a young woman held a baby. Beside her, a man in construction overalls. Behind them, a blue house. This is Magdalena when she was young, and that's Mark's grandfather. That house has been in their family for 3 generations. David studied the photo. The woman he had spoken to, who had told him Sarah had left, that she wanted nothing to do with him. I don't understand why she lied to me. Because I was with Mark. Sarah sat down again, her hands trembling. When you came looking for me 3 years after you left, I had just met Mark. It had only been 2 months, but Magdalena was very protective of her family. When she saw a rich man in a fancy suit asking about me, she assumed you were coming to cause trouble, to ruin what her nephew was building with me. David ran his hands through his hair. His mind raced. So she lied to me, told me you had left to keep me away. Yes. And you didn't know I had come looking for you. Sarah shook her head, tears running down her cheeks. I never knew. Magdalena never told me. And I assumed you had really forgotten me, that all your promises were lies. David stood up abruptly. The chair fell backward with a clatter. I went 3 times, Sarah. 3 times that year. The first time she told me you had moved, the second that you had married, the third that you didn't want to see me, that I should leave you alone. My God, Sarah covered her mouth. I lived just 2 streets away. If you had asked anyone else, but I didn't. I trusted what she told me. I thought I was respecting your wishes. The room spun. Years of assumptions, of self-inflicted pain, of decisions based on lies. Wait, Sarah said suddenly. You said you came back 5 years ago, that you found out when my aunt died. Yes, I read her obituary in the town newspaper, Eleanor Rodriguez. I thought it was your aunt. When I called to offer condolences, they told me you had no close family, that you lived alone with your children, but I didn't have an Aunt Eleanor by then. She had died years ago. David felt a shiver run through him. Then whose obituary was it? Sarah walked back to the box and pulled out an old newspaper. She spread it on the table. There it was, Eleanor Davis. This was the mayor's wife, Sarah explained. She died 5 years ago. She had nothing to do with me. David slumped against the wall. All of this, all these years based on confusion, coincidences, and well-intentioned lies. I could have found you, he whispered. At any point in these 15 years, I could have really found you. But you didn't. Because you believed what you were told. Because you assumed I had moved on. Because I was a coward who preferred to believe a convenient lie than to come here and fight for you. Sarah wiped her tears. Her face was a mixture of anger, pain, and something else. Something David couldn't identify. Do you know what the worst part is? She asked. That Magdalena died 3 years ago. I'll never be able to ask her why she did it. I'll never know if she really thought she was keeping you away to protect me, or if what? Or if she wanted to make sure I stayed with Mark. that her family didn't lose the chance to have a mother for their future grandchildren. The silence that followed was dense, loaded with implications. "The children," David said slowly. "You said the oldest was 12 years old. Emily is 12. Yes, we broke up 15 years ago. That's right. And you met Mark 2 months before I came looking for you, which means 3 years after you left." David did the math in his head. His face turned pale. "Sarah, when exactly was Emily born?" She looked him in the eyes, and at that moment, David knew. He knew before she said a single word. 3 months after I met Mark, 9 months after losing you. David's world stopped completely. "Then Emily is yours?" The words came out as a whisper. "Emily is your daughter." David couldn't breathe. Sarah's words echoed in his head like bells. "Emily is your daughter." He slumped into the chair. His hands trembled so much he had to press them against his knees. "How?" His voice was broken. "How is that possible? You said you lost the baby." "And I did." Sarah sat across from him, exhausted. "I lost the first one, the one I was carrying when you left, at 12 weeks. The doctor said it was due to stress, to suffering. But then, 3 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant again." David looked at her uncomprehendingly. They were twins, David. Tears ran freely down Sarah's face. "Now, I was pregnant with twins. I lost one. But Emily clung to life. She was born prematurely, weighing barely 4 pounds, but she survived." David's world reeled. A daughter. He had a 1-2-year-old daughter. A brave girl with messy braids and fire in her eyes, who had been living in poverty while he built empires. "Why didn't you tell me?" His voice was barely a whisper. "How? How was I supposed to tell you if you disappeared? I changed my number 3 months after you left, because I couldn't bear to look at the phone waiting for a call that never came. When I returned to town after giving birth, your number didn't work either. I could have known her. I could have been there for her first steps, her first words. But you weren't." Sarah's voice rose. "You weren't there when she was born blue, and the doctors said she might not survive the night. You weren't there when she had pneumonia at 6 months, and I stayed awake 3 days straight begging her to breathe. You weren't there when she took her first steps alone in this empty house because I was working." David stood and walked toward the room where the children slept. He stopped at the door, peering through the crack. Emily slept in the middle. Her 2 younger brothers curled against her. Her arm protected the youngest. "She looks like you," Sarah said behind him. "She has your nose, your stubbornness, your way of frowning when she's concentrating. She knows?" "No." Mark knew. Sarah nodded slowly. He knew from the beginning. "I told him the truth before we got married, that I was pregnant with another man, that man had left me. Mark said he didn't care, that he would love Emily as if she were his own. And he did, more than you ever would have loved her." There was venom in those words, venom born of years of pain. He carried her on his shoulders. He taught her to ride a bike. He called her my princess. When he died, Emily cried for weeks. For her, he was her father, the only father she ever knew. David closed his eyes. Every word was a stab. "And the other 2 are Mark's?" "Biologically theirs, but Emily cares for them as if they were hers too. That girl is 12 years old and is already more of a mother than many adult women." David turned to look at Sarah. "I want to tell her. You have no right to know." "No." Sarah crossed her arms. "You're not going to come here after 15 years and shatter her world." "Shatter it?" "Sarah, look where she lives. Look how she dresses. Don't you think she deserves to know she has a father who can give her everything? Everything?" Sarah laughed without humor. "Are you going to give her time, memories, sleepless nights when she has nightmares, hugs when the world feels too heavy?" "Yes, all that. I'll try." "You'll try?" Sarah pushed him in the chest. It was a weak gesture, but loaded with years of fury. "My daughter doesn't need attempts. She's had enough abandonment for a lifetime. I'm not going to abandon her." "That's what you said about me!" The blow landed. David recoiled, as if he'd been slapped. A noise made them turn. Emily was in the doorway of the room, awake, with huge eyes in the darkness. "Why are you fighting?" Her voice was small, vulnerable, nothing like the fierce girl from before. Sarah ran to her. "It's nothing, honey. Go back to sleep." I heard screaming. Emily looked at David with distrust. "Who is he, Mom? Why is he here?" Sarah opened her mouth, but no words came out. She looked at David with panic in her eyes. David knelt to be at Emily's height. The girl took a step back, shielding herself behind her mother. "My name is David," he said softly. "I'm an old friend of your mom's. Why are you making her cry?" The question was direct, accusing, and fair. Because sometimes when adults talk about things from the past, it hurts, but it's not her fault, it's mine. Emily studied him with those eyes that were so much like his own. My dad said real men don't make women cry. David felt as if a knife had been plunged into his heart. Your dad was right, and I'm sorry. Emily, please, go back to bed, Sarah pleaded. Is he going to stay? I don't know. Emily looked at David one last time. Then, with the seriousness of someone much older than 12, she said, If you stay, don't make my mom cry again. She's cried enough. She went back into the room, closing the door softly behind her. Sarah slumped against the wall, sobbing. David approached hesitantly, and finally dared to put a hand on her shoulder. She didn't push him away. She's just like you, he whispered. Strong, brave, protective. She's better than me, better than both of us. They stayed like that for minutes, or maybe hours. Time had lost meaning in this house, where every second weighed with the pain of 15 years. Finally, Sarah wiped her face and straightened up. You need to leave, David. Not tonight, but soon. I need to think, to process all of this. And the money. She looked at the documents still on the table. I don't know. It's too much. Everything is too much. It's yours by right. Rights mean nothing when your whole world has just exploded. David nodded. He understood, or at least he tried to understand. Can I come back tomorrow? I don't know. Please, just to talk, to get to know her. Them, her. Sarah closed her eyes. When she opened them, there was a tired determination in them. There's something else you need to know. What? Emily is sick. The world stopped again. It seemed everything David learned tonight came with a devastating emotional cost. Sick? How? Her heart. She was born with a defect. The doctors said she would eventually need surgery. That eventuality arrived 6 months ago and I don't have money for the operation. It costs more than I'll earn in my entire life. David felt as if someone had ripped the air from his lungs. How serious is it? If she doesn't have surgery in the next few months. Sarah couldn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. I'll get her operated now, tomorrow, whenever it's necessary. It's not that simple. Why not? Because if you suddenly appear with money to save her life, she's going to ask questions I don't know if I'm ready to answer. Then tell her the truth. And what truth? That her real father abandoned her before she was born? That he only showed up when he discovered she has money in her name? That he could have been there all this time but chose not to be? Every word was a bullet, and all hit their mark. You're right, David said, his voice broken, about everything. But that doesn't change the fact that my daughter is sick, and I can save her. Our daughter. Our daughter. Sarah walked to the window. Outside, the moon illuminated the dirt yard where her children played every day. Give me a week, she finally said. A week, to talk to her, to prepare her. And what if we don't have a week? According to the doctors, we have 3 months, maybe 4. And you're willing to risk that? Sarah turned. Her face was a mask of pain. I've risked everything for her from the moment she was born. What have you risked? There was no answer for that. Because the truth was, David had risked nothing. He had played it safe. He had built his empire while his family crumbled. I'll be back tomorrow, he said, and every day after that, until you let me be a part of their lives, however that may be. And your company, your projects, they can go to hell. I have 15 years to make up for. Sarah looked at him for a long moment, searching for sincerity, searching for the catch, searching for the man she had once loved in this millionaire stranger who was now in her house. All right, she finally said. Come back tomorrow at 4, after Emily gets back from school. It was an opportunity. Small, fragile, but an opportunity. David nodded and walked to the door. He put on his expensive shoes that now seemed obscene in this humble place. David, Sarah called. As his hand was on the doorknob, he turned. If you break her heart, if you disappoint her like you disappointed me, there won't be enough money in the world to protect you from me. It was not an empty threat. It was a promise. And David believed her. I won't, he said. I swear, I don't believe your oaths anymore. David stepped out into the night. His luxury car waited on the dirt road, an obscene contrast to the humble houses around. He sat inside, but didn't start the engine. He just looked at Sarah's house. The lights went out one by one, until only darkness remained. He had a daughter who was dying, a daughter who didn't know him, a daughter who loved another man as a father, and he only had days to change 15 years of absence. What David didn't know was that someone else had been watching that night. Someone who had heard every word. Someone whose presence would change everything again. Because in a small town, secrets never stay buried for long. David didn't sleep that night. He stayed in the town's only motel, a modest room with thin walls and a sagging mattress, so different from his penthouse in the city. But it wasn't the discomfort that kept him awake. It was the image of Emily, his daughter, sleeping among her siblings, protecting them even in dreams, with a sick heart that he must save. At 6 inches the morning, someone knocked on his door, loud, insistent. He opened it to find a woman in her 40s with her hair pulled back in a tight braid and eyes burning with barely contained fury. "You're David?" It wasn't a question. "Yes. Who are you?" "Rosa, Mark's sister." She pushed the door open and entered without waiting for an invitation. "And I've come to tell you to leave this town before you destroy the little my sister-in-law has left." David closed the door and turned to face her. "I don't know what you heard." "I heard everything." Rosa crossed her arms. "Sarah's windows are thin, and I live in the house next door, the house that was my brother's, the house from where I cared for those children when Sarah worked 18 hours a day to feed them." David felt the weight of the accusation. "Then you know Emily is my daughter? I know you abandoned Sarah when she was pregnant, that my brother was the man who was there when you weren't, that Emily called Mark Dad until his last breath, and I respect that. Mark was a better man than I was." "Respect?" Rosa laughed without humor. "Is that what you call showing up with your dirty money 15 years later? It's not dirty money. It's money that legally belongs to Sarah. And you think that makes you better? Do you think money erases 15 years of absence? No, but it can save Emily's life." Rosa fell silent. Her face softened just a little. "Sarah told me about the operation she needs. Then do you understand why I'm here? I understand that a rich man with a guilty conscience thinks he can buy his redemption." David sat on the edge of the bed. He was tired, so tired. "I'm not trying to buy anything, I just want to help." "Help?" Rosa came closer. "Do you know how many times Emily asked me why she didn't have a dad like the other kids? How many times I heard her cry because the kids at school made fun of her? I didn't know." "Exactly. You didn't know because you weren't here, because you chose not to be." Rosa took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. "Sarah is like my sister. Those children are my nieces and nephews. I've watched them grow, suffer, struggle, and now you appear as a savior when all you've been is a ghost." "You're right." David looked up. "About everything. But that doesn't change that Emily is sick, and I can pay for the surgery." "And after? What? Do you stay or disappear again when your conscience is clear?" "I stay." "For how long?" "A week, a month, until your business calls you back? As long as it takes." Rosa studied him, searching for lies, searching for the catch. "My brother left something before he died," she finally said. "A letter. He asked me to give it to Sarah if you ever showed up." David felt a shiver. "What does the letter say?" "I don't know. It's sealed, but Mark made me promise I'd deliver it." Rosa pulled a yellowed envelope from her purse. "I was going to give it to Sarah this morning, but I wanted to see you first, to see what kind of man you are." "And what do you see?" "I see a scared, lost man trying to fix something that maybe can't be fixed." Rosa placed the envelope on the table. "But I also see a man who finally showed up. Late, but he showed up. What do you want me to do?" "I want you to be honest with Sarah, with Emily, with yourself." Rosa walked to the door. "And I want you to understand something. If you hurt that girl, if you break her heart like you broke her mother's, there won't be enough money to hide from me." It was the second threat in less than 12 hours, and David believed both. Rosa opened the door, but stopped. "One more thing. Emily has an appointment with the cardiologist tomorrow in the city. Sarah borrowed money for the bus and the consultation. If you really want to help, you can start there." "What time is the appointment?" "At 10 inches the morning at Central Hospital." "I'll take them. Sarah won't accept." "Then convince her. Please." "Not for me, for Emily." Rosa looked at him for a long moment. Finally, she nodded. "I'll talk to her, but I don't promise anything." She left, leaving David alone with the letter from a dead man, a man who had been a better father to his daughter than he. David looked at the envelope. The handwriting was clear, careful, for Sarah, only if he returns. Mark knew. Somehow he knew David would eventually return. What had he written? Warnings? Advice? Forgiveness? David resisted the urge to open the letter. It wasn't for him, but he couldn't stop wondering what secrets it contained. At 3 inches the afternoon, his phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Hello, it's Sarah." Her voice sounded tense. "Rosa told me about the appointment. I can drive you and Emily. and pay for the consultation and any tests. I don't need your charity. It's not charity, it's responsibility. I should have been there from the beginning. Let me be there now." There was a long silence. "All right, but with conditions. Whatever they are. You don't tell Emily anything yet. You're just a friend helping us, nothing more. Understood? And when we're at the hospital, you let me do the talking. You just pay and stay quiet. Understood? And David? Yes, if this is a game for you, if you plan to disappear afterwards, tell me now, because I'm not going to let you get my daughter's hopes up if you don't plan to stay. It's not a game and I'm not going to disappear. That's what you said before." The call ended. David stared at the phone, wondering if he could ever win back Sarah's trust. The rest of the day, he spent making calls, canceling meetings, delegating projects. His assistant was confused. "Mr. Campbell, is everything all right?" "No," he had answered honestly, "but it will be." At 6 inches the evening, he walked to Sarah's house. The children were playing outside. Emily was watching them as always. When she saw him, her expression hardened. "Hi," David said, keeping a respectful distance. "Hi, your mom told me you have an appointment tomorrow." "Yes." Emily wouldn't look him in the eyes. "With the heart doctor. Do you mind if I accompany you? I can drive you in my car." "Why?" It was a simple question, but loaded with meaning. "Because your mom is important to me, and you are important to her." Emily finally looked at him. "My dad said words mean nothing without actions. Your dad was a wise man. He was." There was pride in her voice, and pain. "I wish he were here." "Me too." And David meant it. Because if Mark were alive, Emily would have a father who knew how to love, who knew how to stay. Sarah came out of the house. She wore her best dress, the only one without visible patches. "Time to come in, kids," she called. The younger brothers ran inside. Emily followed them. But before entering, she looked at David one last time. "Are you going to make my mom cry again?" "I'm going to try not to. Trying isn't enough." She went into the house, leaving David with Rosa, who had appeared on her porch. "She's smarter than you think," Rosa said. "She sees things, understands things. Don't underestimate her." "I won't." "Good." Rosa turned to go into her house. Because tomorrow at the hospital, everything could change. The doctors might say there's no time, that she needs surgery now, and then you'll have to decide what's more important, your comfort or your daughter's life. The words hung in the air. That night, David dreamed of a man he never met, Mark, a man who had loved his daughter, who had given her everything David couldn't, and he wondered if he could ever live up to that legacy. What he didn't know was that tomorrow, at that hospital, he would discover something that would make everything else seem insignificant, because the secrets of the past were about to collide with the reality of the present, and nothing would ever be the same. David arrived at 7 inches the morning at Sarah's house, too early, but he hadn't been able to sleep. Sarah opened the door with tired eyes. She hadn't slept either. "We'll be 3 hours early," she said. "I prefer that to being late." Emily came out in her best clothes, a blouse that was too short and pants with a patch on the knee. Her hair was carefully braided, trying to look older, stronger than she felt. The trip to the city was silent. Emily looked out the window, marveling at a world she rarely saw. Sarah kept her hands clasped in her lap. David drove, aware that he was carrying in his car the most valuable thing he had, a family he didn't know how to care for. Central Hospital was an imposing building of concrete and glass. People constantly entered and exited. Ambulances, doctors, the smell of disinfectant, and despair. In the cardiology waiting room, Emily sat between her mother and David. Her legs didn't touch the floor. She was so small, so fragile. "Does it hurt?" David asked softly. "What? Your heart, does it hurt?" Emily shrugged. "Sometimes, when I run a lot, or when it's cold." "Are you scared?" The girl looked at him with those eyes that were so much like his own. "My dad said fear only has the power you give it. He was a very wise man." "Yes." Emily looked down. "I miss him every day." David felt a pang in his chest, absurd jealousy of a dead man who had been a better father in 4 years than he in a lifetime. "Emily Campbell," a nurse called. Sarah stood up. David did too. "Only one companion can enter," the nurse said. Sarah looked at David. There was panic in her eyes. She needed someone else to listen, someone else to understand. "You're the husband," the nurse said to David. It wasn't a question. David looked at Sarah. "Yes," she said. The lie came easy, necessary. "He's my husband." They entered together, Emily between them, like a family they never were. Dr. Miller was a man in his 60s with steady hands and kind eyes. The kind of doctor who had seen too much suffering, but still cared. He examined Emily, listened to her heart, looked at the old tests. Sarah had brought in a worn folder. His expression became serious. "I need to run new tests today." "What's wrong?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. "The valve is deteriorating faster than expected. Much faster." "What does that mean?" David leaned forward. The doctor looked at both of them, then at Emily, who had remained very still. "Emily, can you wait outside with the nurse? I need to talk to your parents." The girl nodded. She was too mature for her age. She knew the news was bad. When the door closed, Dr. Miller took off his glasses. "Your daughter needs urgent surgery. Not in 3 months, in 3 weeks, a month at most." Sarah put her hand to her mouth. "And if not?" Her heart could fail at any moment. Too much effort, too strong an emotion, anything could be the trigger. "How much does the surgery cost?" David asked. "With the preliminary tests, the specialized equipment, the recovery, we're talking about $800,000, maybe $1 million. Sarah crumbled. It was more money than she would see in her entire life. "I'll pay," David said immediately. The doctor nodded without surprise. He had seen this scenario many times. "There's another problem." "What?" "Emily's blood type is very rare, AB negative. If there are complications during surgery, we'll need compatible donors, and the reserves at the blood bank are low." "I'm AB negative," David said. Sarah looked at him in shock. "How do you know your blood type?" "I get regular checkups. Part of my routine." The doctor made a note. "That's good, very good. But we would need at least 2 compatible donors, just in case." "I'll do whatever it takes," David said. "Good. I'm going to schedule the tests for today. We'll have the results tomorrow. If everything is as I suspect, we'll schedule the surgery for 2 weeks from now." 2 weeks. 14 days for David to get to know his daughter, for her to accept him, for her to understand he wasn't a stranger trying to buy his way into their lives. They left the office. Emily was sitting, swinging her legs, trying to look brave. "What did the doctor say?" she asked. Sarah knelt in front of her. "You need an operation, honey. Soon." "Am I going to die?" "No." Sarah's voice broke. "No, because we're going to fix that heart. We have money." "Yes." Sarah looked at David. "We have help." Emily followed her gaze. She studied David with those 2 wise eyes. "Why are you helping us?" It was the $1 million question, and David didn't have an answer he could give. Not yet. "Because it's the right thing to do. Nobody does anything just because it's right. There's always a reason." "Emily," Sarah gently reprimanded. "No, it's okay." David knelt too, reaching her height. "You're right. I have reasons, and someday, if you let me, I'll tell you all of them. But for now, you can trust that I just want to help." Emily looked at him for a long moment. "My mom trusts you." Sarah hesitated. David saw the doubt in her eyes. The question wasn't if she trusted him to pay for the surgery. It was if she trusted him to stay, not to break more hearts. "I'm learning to trust again," Sarah finally said. It wasn't a yes, but it wasn't a no either. The tests took hours. Echocardiograms, X-rays, blood tests. Emily was brave. She didn't cry once, though David saw how she clenched her fists when the needles pricked her. By the time they finished, it was night. Emily was exhausted. She fell asleep in the car on the way back, her head resting on her mother's shoulder. "Thank you," Sarah whispered in the dark. "You don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do, because despite everything, you showed up when we needed you most." 15 years late. Better late than never. David wasn't sure he believed that, but he didn't argue. When they arrived in town, it was already midnight. David carried Emily inside. The girl woke up halfway. "Dad," she murmured, still asleep. David's world stopped. "You're home, honey?" Sarah said quickly, taking Emily from his arms. But it was too late. David had heard that word, that unconscious desire. Emily's eyes opened completely. She realized what she had said. Her face turned red. "I'm sorry. I was dreaming." "It's okay," David said, though he felt as if someone had squeezed his heart. "No, it's not okay." Tears ran down Emily's cheeks now. "You're not." She ran inside to her room. Sarah followed her. David remained on the porch alone, listening to the muffled sobs of a girl who missed her father, a father who wasn't him. Rosa appeared on her porch. "I heard about the hospital. How is she?" "Bad. She needs surgery in 2 weeks." "And you're going to pay?" "Yes." "And after? After what? After you save her life, what's next? Do you tell her the truth? Do you expect her to call you Dad? David sat on the steps, burying his face in his hands. I don't know what to do. Do it right. For once in your life, do the right thing. Rosa went into her house, but before closing the door added, and read Mark's letter. Maybe he has the answers you're looking for. David looked at the envelope he had kept in his pocket, the letter from a dead man. A man who had known how to love when David only knew how to run. He opened it with trembling hands. The first words hit him like a punch. David, if you're reading this, it means you finally came back. Good, because there's something Sarah never told you, something only I knew, and now you have to know it too. David read, and with each word his world crumbled a little more, because what Mark had written would change everything, absolutely everything. If you want to know how this incredible story ends, subscribe now. Don't miss the conclusion. The letter trembled in David's hands. Mark's words were written in clear, deliberate handwriting, as if he had taken his time, as if he knew every word mattered. David, if you're reading this, it means you finally came back. Good, because there's something Sarah never told you, something only I knew, and now you have to know it too. The baby Sarah lost, Emily's twin, didn't die from stress. He died because Sarah tried to take her own life. 2 weeks after you left, when she discovered she was pregnant, she took pills, not many, just enough to sleep forever, enough not to wake up to the pain. Her neighbor found her. They called the ambulance. The doctors saved Sarah and one of the babies, but the other didn't survive. When I met Sarah, 3 years later, she still carried that guilt. She blamed herself for the death of your son. She hated herself for having been so weak, for having chosen escape instead of fighting. It took her years to forgive herself, years to accept Emily deserved a mother who didn't live in the past. I'm telling you this not to judge her, but so you understand how much pain you caused her, how much you shattered her. If you came back, if you're reading this, it's because you want to be part of their lives. Good, but you need to know the full truth. You need to understand that your decisions had consequences that almost killed the woman you loved. Take care of them, David. Take care of Emily. Take care of Sarah. Not like I did, but like you should have done from the beginning. On 7. With respect, Mark. David read the letter 3 times. Each time the words cut deeper. Sarah had tried to die because of him. She had been so desperate, so broken, that she had chosen oblivion. He stood up and walked. He didn't know where. His feet simply moved. He ended up at the town church, closed at this hour. He sat on the steps. I almost killed her, he whispered to the night. And I never knew. How could he look her in the eyes knowing this? How could he pretend he deserved a second chance when the first one almost destroyed her completely? His phone rang. It was his assistant. Mr. Campbell, the investors are worried. The Riverside project needs your approval. If you don't sign by Friday, we lose the contract. Let them lose it. What? I said let them lose it, or have someone else sign it. I won't be there. But sir, it's $20 million. I don't care. He hung up. He turned off his phone. For the first time in 15 years, money didn't matter. At dawn, he knocked on Sarah's door. She opened it with swollen eyes. She hadn't slept either. What are you doing here so early? I read Mark's letter. Color drained from Sarah's face. What letter? The one he left, the one Rosa was going to give you. I don't know what you're talking about. Sarah, please, no more lies. She recoiled. Her hands trembled. You had no right to read that letter. I know, and I'm sorry, but I read it. And now I know what you did. Sarah slumped into a chair. She buried her face in her hands. I didn't want you to know. Why? Because I'm ashamed every day of my life. I'm ashamed of having been so weak. David knelt in front of her. You weren't weak. You were broken, and I broke you. No. Sarah looked up. I took those pills. I chose to give up. That wasn't your fault. Yes, it was. It was all my fault. No, you didn't force me to do anything. I just couldn't bear the pain. Emily knows? God, no. And she never will. Panic filled Sarah's voice. Promise me you'll never tell her. I promise. Why did you come to tell me you read the letter? David sat on the floor in front of her. Because I needed you to know that I understand. That I don't judge you. That I admire your strength for carrying on. I don't feel strong. But you are. Look at everything you built. Alone with 3 children. Without help. I had help. Mark. Mark was a good man. But that doesn't change what you did. You survived. You raised your children. You loved them. That is strength. Sarah cried. Sobs came from deep within. Years of stored pain. David didn't know if he could hug her. If he had the right. She leaned into him, and he held her as she cried. I'm going to save her, he whispered. Emily, I'm going to do whatever it takes. I know. And after, if you let me, I'm going to spend the rest of my life making up for these 15 years. You can't make up for lost time. Then I'm going to create new time, better memories. Sarah pulled away, wiped her tears. The test results are due today. The doctor will call, and if he says there's no time, that the surgery has to be sooner, then it will be sooner. Sarah, I have to tell Emily the truth before the surgery. Why? Because if something goes wrong, David couldn't finish the sentence. Nothing is going to go wrong. But if it does, she deserves to know that her father loved her, that he always loved her, even when he didn't know she existed. Sarah closed her eyes. Give her one more day, just one day to be a normal child, before her world changes forever. All right. One day. Sarah's phone rang. It was the hospital. Yes. Her voice trembled. She listened. Her face turned pale. I understand. Yes, we'll be there. She hung up. She looked at David with eyes full of fear. The results are worse than they thought. They want to operate in the morning. If we wait longer, the risk is too high. Tomorrow. We have to be at the hospital at 6 inches the morning. One day. They had one day to prepare. One day for Emily to know the truth. One day for David to be a father for the first time. I'm going to tell her today, David said. Tonight. Are you sure? No. But it's the right thing to do. Sarah nodded, stood, and walked to the room where the children slept. Then get ready, because when you tell her, everything is going to change for all of us. David spent the day preparing. He called the hospital, paid in advance, ensured they had the best surgeon, the best nurses, the best equipment. He called his lawyer, changed his will. If anything happened to him, everything would go to Sarah and the children. He called his mother, whom he hadn't spoken to in months. Mom, I have a daughter. What? A 1-2-year-old daughter. And tomorrow she's having heart surgery, his mother cried. He made her promises he wasn't sure he could keep, but she gave him her blessing. At 6 inches the evening, he returned to Sarah's house. Emily was in the yard alone, watching the sunset. He sat beside her. Are you scared about tomorrow? Yes. Me too. Why would you be scared? David took a deep breath. It was time. Because you're important to me, Emily. More important than you can imagine. You barely know me. That's not entirely true. Emily looked at him, those eyes so much like his own. What do you mean? David looked toward the house. Sarah was at the window, nodding, giving him permission. Emily, there's something I need to tell you. Something you should have known a long time ago. The girl tensed. What? I met your mom many years ago, before you were born. We were married. Emily jumped to her feet. You're the one who left? Yes. The one who abandoned her? Yes. The one who made her cry all those nights I heard her? Every word was a bullet. But David took them all. Yes. And now you come to play the hero? No. I come to tell you the truth. What truth? David stood up, looked at this fierce, brave, broken girl. That you are my daughter, Emily. I am your father. The world stopped. The wind stopped blowing. The birds stopped singing. Emily looked at him. Then she looked toward the house where Sarah had come out onto the porch. Mom. Her voice was small, scared. Sarah nodded, tears running down her cheeks. It's true, honey. Emily looked at David, at Sarah, back at David, and then she ran, not toward them, but away, toward the field, anywhere but here. David started to follow her, but Sarah stopped him. Let her go. She needs to process. And if she doesn't come back, she'll come back. She always comes back. They waited an hour, 2. When Emily returned, her eyes were red, but her face was firm. Are you going to leave me again? She asked David. No. How do I know? You don't know. You can only give me the chance to prove it. Emily looked at him for a long moment. All right, but if you leave me, if you leave us, I'll never forgive you. I won't leave you. She went into the house, leaving David and Sarah in the silence of the night. She knows, Sarah said. Yes. And now what? Now we save her. Tomorrow was the surgery, the moment that would determine if David would have the chance to be a father or if he would lose everything before he began. 5 inches the morning. The house was silent. David hadn't slept. He stayed in his car all night, watching, making sure nothing bad happened before dawn. At 5:30, the house lights came on. Sarah came out first, then Emily. The girl carried a small bag. She walked as if she were going to school, as if this were a normal day. But her eyes told another story. Fear. So much fear. Ready? David asked. Emily nodded. She hadn't spoken since last night, since she learned the truth. Rosa came out to say goodbye. She hugged Emily tightly. You're the bravest girl I know. You're going to be fine. And if not, don't say that. But if I don't wake up? Rosa looked at David with eyes that said, this is your fault. Fix it. You're going to wake up, David said. I promise. You can't promise that. You're right. But I'm going to be there the whole time, and when you wake up, I'm going to be waiting for you. The trip was silent. Emily looked out the window. Sarah squeezed her hand. David drove too fast, then too slow. He didn't know how to handle this terror. At the hospital, a full team greeted him. Nurses, doctors, everything moved very fast. Mr. Campbell, thank you for coming early. We need you to sign these documents. David read. Risks, complications, possibility of death. He signed with a trembling hand. Mrs. Campbell, we need you to sign too. Sarah took the pen, paused. What if I make the wrong decision? You won't, David said. How do you know? Because you're her mother, and mothers always know, Sarah affirmed. Tears stained the paper. They took Emily to a prep room, put a gown on her, placed an IV. The girl didn't cry, but she squeezed her mother's hand so hard her knuckles were white. Mom, if I don't wake up, don't say that. But if I don't wake up, take care of my brothers, tell them I love them. You're going to tell them yourself. And Mom, forgive me. Why? For not being enough. For costing you so much money. For being the reason you're always sad. Sarah broke down, hugged her daughter with all her being. You are the reason I'm still alive. You are my everything. Never, ever think you're not enough. David watched from the doorway this moment, this love. This was what he had lost. The anesthesiologist entered. It's time. No, Sarah clung to Emily. Give me 1 more minute. Mom, we need to start. 1 minute, please. The doctor nodded. He left. Sarah kissed Emily's forehead, her cheeks, her hands. You're my warrior, my light, my reason for living. I love you, Mom. I love you more. David approached. Emily looked at him. Yes. Her voice was cold. I know I have no right. I know I just showed up, but can I hug you? Emily looked at him for what seemed an eternity. Finally, she nodded. David hugged her and felt something break in his chest. This girl, his girl, fragile and strong at the same time. When you wake up, he whispered, I'm going to be there. And every day after that, I promise you. You already promised me you wouldn't leave Mom, and you did. That will never happen again. Words mean nothing. I know. That's why I'm going to prove it to you with actions every day. Emily pulled away, looked at her mother, then at David. All right, you can prove it to me. They wheeled her down those white hallways toward those doors that said, Operating room. Authorized personnel only. Sarah collapsed. David held her. We're going to lose her, she sobbed. I'm going to lose my baby. No, she's strong, like you. And if that's not enough, it has to be. The hours that followed were the longest of David's life. They sat in the waiting room. Sarah prayed. David simply watched the clock. Tick, tock. Every second, an eternity. At hour 3, a nurse came out. Family of Emily Campbell? Yes. Sarah jumped to her feet. There are complications. They're losing a lot of blood. We need the donor. Now. David didn't hesitate. He ran after the nurse. They took him to a room. They drew blood. Quickly. Efficiently. Is she okay? He asked. They're doing everything they can. It wasn't an answer. It was an evasion. He returned to the waiting room. Dizzy. Weak. Sarah saw him and ran to him. What happened? Complications. They needed blood. My God. They sat, waited. Hour 4, hour 5. Finally, the doors opened. Dr. Miller came out. His scrubs had blood. His face was tired. Sarah couldn't breathe. The doctor took off his mask. The surgery was successful. Sarah collapsed. David held her as she sobbed with relief. But, the doctor continued, the next 24 hours are critical. Her body went through a lot. She lost a lot of blood. If she makes it through tonight, she's going to be fine. Can we see her? She's in recovery. In an hour you can see her, but only for a few minutes. They left, leaving David and Sarah in that limbo between hope and terror. She survived, Sarah whispered. Yes, but we could still lose her. We're not going to lose her. How do you know? Because she's your daughter, and you don't give up. Neither will she. They waited. Every minute weighed tons. Finally, they let them in. Emily was surrounded by machines, tubes, wires. Her chest rose and fell with the help of a ventilator. She looked so small, so fragile. Sarah approached, took her hand. "I'm here, honey. Mom's here." David stood back, observing this scene he should have witnessed 12 years ago. The birth, the first days, all the moments he missed. "You can come closer," Sarah said without looking at him. "I don't want to intrude. You're her father. You have a right." David approached the other side of the bed. He touched Emily's hand. It was cold. "Hello, princess," he whispered. "You fought well. We're proud." The monitors beeped constantly. The ventilator did its job. A nurse entered. "You need to leave. She needs to rest." "Can we stay nearby?" Sarah asked. "There's a waiting room on this floor. You can stay there." They left slowly, as if leaving the room was abandoning her. In the waiting room, Sarah sat exhausted, broken. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For your blood, for the money, for being here. You don't have to thank me for doing what I should have done from the beginning. But you're doing it now. That counts." David sat beside her. "Sarah, I need to ask you something." "What?" "Mark's letter. When he said you tried, that you took pills, did you ever think of doing it again?" She looked at him, surprised by the question. "No, never. There were dark moments when Mark died, when I didn't have money for food. But no, I never thought of it again. Why? Because of her." Sarah looked toward the room where Emily was sleeping. "Because she saved me as much as I saved her." David nodded. He understood. "You," Sarah asked. "Did you ever think about—" "Not that way. But there were nights when I wished I wouldn't wake up. Nights when the emptiness was so great I didn't know how to go on. And what stopped you? The stupid hope that someday I could fix what I broke. And do you think you can fix it? I don't know, but I'm going to try every day for the rest of my life." Sarah leaned her head on David's shoulder, exhausted. "All right, you can try." They stayed like that. Two broken people, trying to heal, united by a girl fighting for her life in the next room. The hours passed. Night fell. The monitors kept beeping. The ventilator kept working. And Emily kept fighting because she was a warrior like her mother, like her father should have been. And tomorrow, when she woke up, everything would be different. Or everything would be over. Day 2 at the hospital. Emily was still connected to machines, but her vital signs were stable, strong. "She's fighting," Dr. Miller said on his morning visit. "Her body is responding well." Sarah cried with relief. David simply looked at his daughter, marveling at her strength. "When will she wake up?" he asked. "Soon. Maybe today. Maybe tomorrow. Her body decides." When the doctor left, David noticed Sarah looking at him strangely. "What's wrong?" "I need to tell you something now. Now, before she wakes up. Before it's too late." David felt a weight in his chest. There had already been so many revelations, so many secrets. What else could there be? "All right, tell me." Sarah looked toward the door. She made sure they were alone. "The other children, Danielle and Matthew. What about them?" "They're not Mark's." David frowned. "I don't understand. You said they were his children. I said Mark was their father. And he was, in every way that matters. But biologically," David's world began to spin. "No. Yes. It's not possible. It is." David stood up, walked to the window. He needed air, space, something. "You're saying that all 3 are yours?" The words came out as a whisper. "Emily, Daniel, Matthew, all 3? How?" Sarah wiped the tears that were already flowing. "After Emily was born, after she survived, I swore I'd never look for you again. I had closed that chapter, but 2 years later I came to the city to find better work, something that would allow me to give Emily a better life. Maybe one day I saw you in a cafe with a woman, laughing, happy, as if we had never existed." David closed his eyes. He remembered that time, the women, the parties, trying to fill the void with anything that distracted him. "I didn't go to talk to you. I just watched you. And that night in the hotel where I was staying, I cried. I cried for everything I had lost, for everything you had chosen over us." "Sarah, let me finish." Her voice was firm. "The next day I returned to town, and Mark was there at the bus stop waiting for me. He had come to look for me because Rosa told him I had gone to the city. He knew why you went. He knew you needed to close that chapter. He took me to his house, made me coffee, let me cry, and that night I needed to feel alive. I needed to forget. Mark was kind, patient, and it happened." David clenched his fists. He had no right to feel jealous, but he did. "I got pregnant that night, with twins again. Daniel and Matthew. Then they're Mark's, aren't they? Sarah shook her head. The doctor said it was impossible, that I had gotten pregnant before that night. At least 2 weeks before. David turned slowly. 2 weeks before? Yes. But you and I hadn't. It had been years since we. Sarah stood up, walked toward him. Do you remember the last day? Before you left. The morning before you got on that plane? David remembered. How could he not remember? They had made love. Slow, painful, knowing it was goodbye. That was 15 years ago, 14 and a half years when I got pregnant with the twins. The numbers didn't add up in David's head. It's not possible. Emily was already almost 2 years old by then. Exactly. And I had been using protection since she was born, pills, everything, because I couldn't risk another pregnancy. So, how? The doctor said it was an extremely rare case, viable sperm that had remained dormant, or a cryptic pregnancy that wasn't detected. Something medically improbable, but not impossible. David sat down. His legs wouldn't hold him. You're saying that somehow years later you got pregnant with me? The doctors did tests after they were born, DNA tests, because Mark needed to know, he deserved to know if they were his. And what did the tests say? That biologically they weren't Mark's. The doctor suggested that maybe there had been another person, but I swore I had only been with you, that Mark was the first after you. So the tests were wrong. That's what I thought for years. I believed it until 6 months ago when Emily needed surgery, and they did extensive blood tests that found a rare genetic marker, extremely rare, 1 in a million. The doctor said that if her brothers shared that marker, it would mean they definitely had the same biological father. David could see where this was going, and I had Daniel and Matthew tested, without telling anyone. I needed to know. Sarah pulled an envelope from her purse. The results arrived the day before you showed up. She handed him the envelope. David opened it with trembling hands. The 3 children, Emily, Daniel, Matthew, all shared the same rare genetic marker. They're all mine? Yes. All 3? Yes. David looked at Emily in the bed. Then he thought of the 2 children at home with Rosa. His children. All of them. Mark knew? In the end. Yes. You told him when the results confirmed what he always suspected. A week before he died? And what did he say? He said it didn't matter, that he had raised them, that he was their father. The DNA didn't define love. David felt tears running down his cheeks. He was a better man than I could ever be. You don't know that. You haven't tried yet. He raised them for years, knowing they weren't his, knowing they were yours, Sarah corrected, and choosing to love them anyway. Why are you telling me now? Because if something happens to Emily, if she doesn't wake up, you need to know that you have 2 other children who need you, who deserve to know their father. But they believe Mark is their father. And he was. But you are too. Both can be true. David walked to Emily's bed, touched her hand. I have 3 children. Yes, and you were absent for all of them. But you're here now. Is it enough? I don't know, but it's a start. The door opened. A nurse entered. There are 2 children at the reception. They say they're the patient's siblings. A lady named Rosa brought them. Sarah looked at David in panic. They couldn't stay alone. Rosa must have brought them. Do you want them to leave? No. But how do I explain? How do I tell them that the man who is here is? We don't tell them anything yet. I'm just the friend who helped. Nothing more. Are you sure? No, but I'm not going to confuse them more in the middle of this. They went down to the reception. Daniel and Matthew waited with Rosa. Their eyes were red from crying. Is Emily okay? Daniel asked. She's better, Sarah said, hugging them. She's fighting. Matthew, the youngest, looked at David. You're the rich man? David knelt. My name is David. I'm your mom's friend. You saved Emily. The doctors saved her. I just helped. Thank you. The child hugged him, simple, innocent, not knowing he was hugging his father. David held him. This child, his son, who smelled of cheap soap and dirt, who had his eyes, his nose. Daniel, more reserved, observed. Rosa says, you're important. Not as important as you all are. Are you going to stay? It was the question everyone was asking. The question David still didn't know how to answer with certainty. I'm going to try. Trying doesn't count. My dad said you either do it or you don't. Everyone quoted Mark. This ghost of a man who had been a better father without shared blood than David with all his DNA. You're right. Then yes, I'm going to stay. Daniel nodded, accepting the promise, trusting when he shouldn't. They took them to the cafeteria, bought food. The children ate hungrily. They talked about Emily, how much they missed her, how they were watching over her empty bed. David watched them, these children, His children with complete lives he never knew, memories he didn't share, stories where he didn't exist. How did he recover from that? How did he become a father to children who already had one, even if that father was dead? Rosa approached him as Sarah took the children to the bathroom. He knows? What? That they're yours? I see how he looks at them. Sarah told me. Mark told me too before he died. And what do you think? I think genetics doesn't make a father, but absence doesn't make you stop being one either. Rosa looked directly at him. Those children need a father. You need to be a father. But they need time. Everyone needs it. How much time? As much as it takes. When they returned to Emily's room, something had changed. The monitors beeped differently. Doctor, Miller was there checking. What's wrong? Sarah ran. Look, the doctor pointed. Emily's eyes moved under her eyelids. Her fingers flexed. She's waking up. Emily's eyelids moved once, twice. My love, I'm here. Sarah took her hand. Mom's here. Emily's eyes opened slowly, disoriented, trying to focus. Mom. Her voice was a hoarse whisper from the tube they had just removed. Yes, honey, I'm here. Did I die? No. Sarah laughed through tears. You're alive! You fought and won! Emily looked around, saw the machines, the wires. Then she saw David. You came. I told you I'd be here. I thought you were lying. I didn't lie. Daniel and Matthew timidly approached the bed. Emily. Daniel touched her hand carefully. You scared us. I'm sorry. You don't have to apologize, Matthew said, carefully climbing onto the bed. Just don't do it again. Emily smiled weakly. Then she looked at her mother. How long? 2 days. But it's over now, you're fine. It hurts. I know, but it will get better, the doctor promised. Dr. Miller entered, checked her vital signs, smiled. You're a warrior, Emily. Your heart is beating strong. I'm not going to die anymore? Not for a very, very long time. Can I go home? In a few days. We need to make sure everything heals well. When the doctor left, Emily looked at David again. Is what you said before the surgery true? What part? That you're my dad. The children froze. Sarah did too. Emily. It's not the time, Sarah began. I want to know. I almost died. I deserve to know. She was right. She had fought for her life. She deserved the truth. Yes, David said. I am your father, biologically. Daniel looked at David, then at his mother. What does that mean? It means that a long time ago, before you were born, I met your mom, David explained carefully. And we loved each other. But I made a terrible mistake. I left when I shouldn't have. And now you're back? Daniel asked with distrust. Yes. For how long? Forever. That's what my friend Carl's dad said. He left after 2 months. The child's observation cut deeper than any adult accusation. I understand you don't trust me. You shouldn't. Not yet. Matthew, the youngest, looked at David with curious eyes. Are you my dad too? Sarah quickly intervened. Matthew, it's complicated. No, David interrupted. He had made a decision. It's not complicated. Yes, Matthew, I'm your dad too. And Daniel's. All 3 of you. Daniel seemed stunned. All 3? But my dad Mark. Mark was your father in every way that matters, David said firmly. He raised you, he loved you, he taught you. I just shared blood with you, but he was your real father. Daniel processed the information, his eyes filled with tears. I don't want another dad. I want mine. I know. And I'm never going to try to replace him. Nobody could. Then what are you? David had no answer. What was he? A stranger with money, an absent father trying to compensate, a broken man seeking redemption. I'm someone who wants to get to know you, to be in your lives, to help you. If you let me, and if we don't let you, Emily asked from the bed, then I respect that, but I won't give up. I'll be here anyway, even if it's from afar. Emily looked at him, evaluating, deciding. All right, you can stay for now. Thank you. But we have rules. What rules? You don't make mom cry, okay? You don't promise us things you can't keep, understood? And if you leave again, never come back. The last rule weighed more than the other 2 combined. I accept. Sarah watched. Her face was a mixture of hope and terror. Hope that this could work. Terror that everything would fall apart again. Rosa entered with food, stopped when she saw the scene. The 3 children around the bed, Sarah and David on both sides like a family. Am I interrupting? No, Emily said. We finished talking and decided to give him a chance, but only one. Rosa looked at David. Don't waste it. I won't. The following days were a careful dance. David visited every day. He brought books, toys, but above all, he brought time. He sat with Emily, listened to her stories, her fears, her dreams. He got to know Daniel, who loved animals and dreamed of being a veterinarian. He got to know Matthew, who drew constantly and saw magic in everything. And slowly, very slowly, they began to trust. A week after the surgery, Emily was discharged. She could go home. David had prepared something. With Sarah's permission, he had renovated the house, not ostentatiously, but practically. A new roof, working electricity, new beds for the children. When they arrived, Emily looked around with huge eyes. "You did this? I wanted you to come to a safe home. It's too much. It's not enough. It will never be enough to compensate for the lost years. But it's a start." Daniel explored his new bed. Matthew found new art supplies. Emily simply sat on the renovated sofa and cried. "Why are you crying?" David asked, concerned. "Because for the first time in a long time, I'm not scared." "Scared of what? Of the roof falling in? Of the electricity failing? Of us not having enough?" Emily looked at him. "Thank you." It was the first time she had thanked him for anything. "You don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do, because this means maybe you'll stay." "I'm going to stay." "Promise?" "Promise." That night, as the children slept in their new beds, Sarah and David sat on the porch. "You're winning them over," she said. "Is that good?" "Yes, but it also terrifies me." "Why?" "Because if you leave, if you disappoint them, the pain will be worse than anything before." "I'm not going to leave, Sarah." "That's what you said before." "I know, but this time it's different." "How?" "Because now I know what I lost, and I'm not going to lose it again." Sarah looked at him, searching for the lie, searching for the catch. She found none. "All right, I believe you. For now." It was enough for now. But what neither knew was that the past still held secrets. One more, the biggest of all. And when it came to light, it would change everything again. Because in a small town, where everyone knows everyone, where stories are passed down from generation to generation, some secrets are too big to stay buried. And this secret involved not only David and Sarah, but the real reason David left 15 years ago. A reason he himself didn't fully know. A month later, life had found a fragile rhythm, new, but a rhythm nonetheless. David had rented a house in town, close, but not intrusive. He spent afternoons with the children, took them to school, helped with homework. Emily was recovering well. Her heart beat strong, nightmares were less frequent. Daniel was starting to call him David instead of Mr. Matthew had drawn him a portrait that David kept in his wallet. Sarah observed everything with cautious hope, like someone who had been burned so many times that she didn't trust fire, even when it gave warmth. But one Sunday afternoon, everything changed. A woman arrived in town, older, elegant, driving an expensive car. She asked for David. Rosa saw her first. Something about the woman seemed familiar, unsettling. The woman knocked on David's door. He opened it and froze. "Hello, son." "Mom, what are you doing here?" "I came to meet my grandchildren. Or were you planning to hide them from me forever?" David let her in. His mother, Catherine, looked around with barely disguised disapproval. The rented house was modest by her standards. "Why did you really come?" "Your sister told me everything. About the girl, the surgery, the other two. Jennifer has a big mouth. She's your sister." She was worried. David sat down. He had faced too many ghosts. His mother was another. "What do you want?" "I want to know why you threw your life away for a townswoman and 3 bastards." The word cut. David stood up. "Get out of my house." "David, sit down. We need to talk. We have nothing to talk about." "Yes, we do. About 15 years ago. About why you really left." David stood still. "I left because I had an opportunity. You left because I forced you." Silence filled the room. "What?" Catherine Seahid slowly took off her gloves. A gesture David remembered from his childhood. She always took off her gloves before difficult conversations. "The investor, the one who financed your first project, was your father. Dad died when I was 10. "No, the man who gave you his last name, who raised you. Yes, he died." Catherine looked directly at him. "But your biological father was alive and wanted to meet you." David's world reeled. "What are you talking about? I married Robert Campbell when I got pregnant with you. He knew you weren't his, but he loved me. He gave you his name, raised you as his son. No, your real father was Alexander Pierce, the tycoon, the millionaire, the man who appeared 15 years ago with an offer you couldn't refuse." David slumped onto the sofa. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" "Because you were going to marry that girl." You were going to stay in this forgotten town. You were going to waste your talent. I was going to be happy, David corrected bitterly. You were going to be poor, and I had fought too hard to get us out of poverty. I wasn't going to let you go back to it. So what did you do? I told Alexander you wanted to meet him, that you wanted your inheritance. He set the conditions. You wanted the money. You had to leave your life here, move, work with him, prove you were worthy. And you were young, ambitious. When I offered you the opportunity to meet your real father, to be part of his empire, you didn't think twice. Lie. I hesitated. Sarah was an obstacle, so I made sure you didn't come with her. How? Catherine looked down. For the first time, David saw shame on her face. I told Alexander, you demanded to go alone, that it was his condition, and I had a letter delivered to Sarah. David jumped to his feet. What letter? A letter from you, or so she thought, saying you had met someone else, that the marriage had been a mistake, that she shouldn't look for you again. You're lying! I wish, but no. Catherine pulled an old paper from her purse. This is the copy I kept. David read it. It was his handwriting, or a perfect imitation. Cruel words he never wrote. Goodbyes he never gave. Sarah received this? Yes. 3 days after you left. Everything made sense. Why Sarah had changed her number. Why she never looked for him. Why when he finally tried to come back, she was already with Mark. You destroyed my life. I gave you a better life. You destroyed my family before I had a chance to create it. I took away your poverty, your stagnation, a mediocre life. Sarah approached Catherine. 2 women, 2 worldviews, 2 ideas of love. Your son has 3 children who grew up without a father, who cried wondering why they weren't enough for someone to love them, who saw their mother work to exhaustion, who knew hunger, shame, abandonment. That's not my fault. It's exactly your fault. And David's for believing you. David stepped between them. Sarah, I didn't know. I know. But you didn't ask either. You didn't fight. You assumed I had forgotten you and moved on. It was true. Painfully true. Catherine walked to the door. I came to invite you home, David. Your father Alexander died last month. He left you everything. $500, million, but only if you return to the city, if you take over the business. No, what did I say? No, keep the money. Give it to Jennifer. I don't want it. David, it's a fortune. It's filthy blood money, bought with lies. I don't want it. You're being ridiculous. I'm being a father, something you never taught me to do. Catherine looked at him for a long moment. Finally, she nodded. Someday, you'll regret this. I already regret many things, but this decision won't be one of them. His mother left, leaving silence in her absence. Sarah sat down. David did too. 15 years, she whispered. 15 years destroyed by a lie. I'm sorry. It wasn't your fault. Not completely. I should have fought harder. I should have come sooner. I should have. Sarah put her hand on his. It's over now. We can't change it. So what do? We move forward with the truth. This time the door opened. Emily, Daniel, and Matthew entered. They had been with Rosa. Who was that lady? Emily asked. My mother, David replied. She looked angry. She was. Why? David looked at Sarah. She nodded. Because I made a decision she doesn't approve of. What decision? To stay here with you all. Forever. Emily studied his face. Forever. Really? Forever, really. And if she comes back? And if she offers you more money? There's not enough money in the world to take me away from you all again. Daniel approached timidly. Can we call you Dad? David's heart stopped. If you want to, but we had another dad, Mark, and he will always be your dad. Nobody can replace him, but maybe you can have 2, one in your memories and one here. Daniel thought, then nodded. All right, Dad. David. Matthew ran to hug him. I have a dad again. Emily remained behind. Observing, she finally approached. One more chance, she said, but it's the last one. I know. I won't waste it. He hugged her. And for the first time in 15 years, David felt he was exactly where he was supposed to be. 6 months later, Sarah's house now had a new porch. David had built it with his own hands. He didn't hire anyone. He did it himself. Every nail, every board. The children played in the yard. Emily, completely recovered, ran with her brothers. Her laughter filled the air. David and Sarah sat together, watching. Happy? She asked. More than I deserve. We all deserve second chances, and we have a second chance. Sarah looked at him. There was love in her eyes, but also caution, scars that would never completely disappear. Ask me in a year, or in 5, or in 20, and maybe then I'll have an answer. It was enough for now. David had learned that love doesn't always come with guarantees, that family is built day by day, that being a father isn't about blood, but about presence, and that sometimes the greatest treasure isn't what you build, but what you almost lose and fight to get back. The lesson. This story teaches us that it's never too late to come home, that past mistakes don't define our future, that true love survives time, lies, even absence. But above all, it teaches us that actions always speak louder than words. David lost 15 years, but he gained the rest of his life. Not because he had money, but because he finally understood what truly mattered. What would you do in this situation? Would you choose success or family, wealth or love? Leave it in the comments. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Someone far from home. Someone who thinks it's too late to return. Because it's never too late as long as there's life. As long as there's love. As long as there's the courage to face our mistakes and make peace with our past. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that go straight to the heart. Stories of second chances. Of broken families that rebuild. Of love that survives everything. The next video will surprise you even more. Because we all have secrets, we all carry pain, and we all deserve a chance at redemption. See you in the next story.